Hey everyone, Margarita here. In this episode today, I'm going to talk about how my mother was able to get the Brownstown, Michigan Police Department to launch a false fraud investigation on me without actually doing a proper investigation and promising her false fraud charges on me without investigating. At no time did anybody from their department intend on reaching out to me, talking to me by phone or in person. And if they had, they would have realized right away that I can prove she's committed the crimes that I've been accused of. So this video may be two parts. This is part one. If there is two parts, I'll know closer to when we get toward the end of the video. It's going to depend on how long it's going to take me to read all of this information. What I'm going to do first is read the actual printed reports that I obtained from the Brownstown Police Department, obtained via FOIA request, which I sent to them May 8th of 2025, and it took them until June 18th of 2025 to produce these documents. Initially, the amount of information in the case files added up to around $126. In the end, they only released to me less than $15 worth of information, which tells me, due to the amount of time it took them and the amount of what they actually released to me, that they were attempting to alter what was given to me so that I could not release this video properly. However, I do have the information of what has all actually gone on. I don't need these documents. All it does is prove their involvement in the long-term crimes against me. Now, this is not an isolated incident. Their department has participated in many different crimes against me over the course of decades and numerous different officers along the way. And all of the fallout from each of what they've participated in against me, with my mother helping them, leads to other fallout and ongoing problems in my life and the destruction of my life. This has been going on for over 20 years now. So at the root is Detective Mike Ramsey, who has participated long-term in helping my mother with all of this. And along the way, other different officers do involve themselves, and they are mentioned in other reports along the way. Now, regarding the Brownstown Police Department, I already have 3 videos up regarding some of those false documents and situations that have occurred. And then I also have some information up about the Romulus Police Department and the probate court situation with my dad that played out fraudulently as well. So those videos are relevant in viewing this video because there is further information in those videos pertaining to this. Now what I'll do is I'll read these reports first, and then I'll go on to talk about the notes that I made about these reports, because much of what is in these entire reports that I have in front of me is all false information. This can all be proven very easily. So I'm going to prove it in this video that my mother actually committed these crimes and not me. Since nobody bothered to investigate or reach out to me, I'm just going to prove it to the entire world. Now, all of these officers need to be charged with fraud themselves, and obstruction of justice, and numerous other crimes, because this is long-term. This is not an isolated incident. And what it has all caused me over the course of my life, and the destruction and the problems it's created along the way, they all need to be charged for what they've been involved in. So I guess you could start with how my mother has Munchausen by proxy. It is not diagnosed properly. However, I am the one who brought in the mental health professional 5.5 years ago. That is who Charmaine is. When I'm talking in the different videos about Charmaine, that's who she is. And she was brought in to document the ongoing crimes against me due to the fact that there were so many large agencies and police departments involved in these crimes. And the fact that my mother had worked in the medical system for 45 years and had also inserted herself once my younger son and I became severely poisoned by carbon monoxide with numerous brain injuries, and we were left without treatment in the hospital system. Those were the crimes of my mother, and she had gotten other individuals to operate on her behalf as well. So due to all of that, it led to our injury becoming much more significant, to an extreme degree where it never needed to be like that, but we were left in an extreme state of physical distress and an extreme physical pain and suffering for years on end without 1 minute of relief. That went on in that extreme manner for 3 years, and we did lose about 5 years of our lives, a full 5 years altogether at one time, and then down the line lost some more time as well. And we do suffer ongoing effects from the initial injury due to that being left untreated and how significant the injury was, which is also all of these crimes. So there's numerous issues that we deal with regularly, and we do have to live modified lives due to what has happened. We're never going to be 100% okay. We're never going to be living normal lives for the rest of our lives due to all of this. And people are judging me on what I look like or whatever delusions they've been told or the false narrative they've been told, not the reality of my situation and what I've been through. So in the end, I am going to prove all of this. I am going to show the receipts that I've paid out of pocket at a private facility, $165,000 out of pocket to get my son and I where we are today, even though we still live modified lives, but we literally had no quality of life for about 5 years total. We have limited quality of life now. So we're not always okay, and that creates additional problems. It's creating problems with me filming the videos and getting other situations back in order from all the fallout of the ongoing crimes over all these years. And it is my life's work that provided me that money to pay at the private facility to get us to where we are today. So I will show the receipts in the end, since people don't want to believe my reality and what I've been through. I've already done a video releasing my medical documents as well. But there's numerous issues here, and part of the problem was because my mother has Munchausen by proxy, she has more than one form of it. So she withholds medical treatment to create pain and suffering, physical pain and suffering, which she had done to my dad numerous times throughout the course of his injury. And she was also, she had been poisoning food from the time I was a small child. And I did confront her around age 3 or 4 about this. And that's when she started farming a false narrative about me with everybody she knew, all family members, all friends, all neighbors, coworkers, all these different agencies and departments, and my teachers when I was in school when I was very young. She did this to make sure that nobody would ever believe anything I would ever say, because she was afraid that I was going to tell on her for what she was doing. So that plays a role in why all of this happened. The incident leading up to these reports, that plays a role in all of that, because what my mother was doing was poisoning my dad's food so frequently. It was around March, April of 2024. She was doing it nearly every day, and her intention was to finish him off. Now, he fell at the end of 2023 in the end of January 2023 is when he fell initially. 7 months later, he was released into my mother's care for a weekend. And I had warned the care facility in advance not to release him into her care, that she's not qualified to care for him, and that she poisons food and she has intent to kill. And they still did it anyway. When she brought him back at the end of that weekend, he was near death and he was in full-blown septic shock. They had to admit him into the hospital right away, where he was intubated and unconscious for quite some time. And that's what led to him having the trach tube. And then there was another incident in January. It was January 8th of 2024. After he had made a pretty good recovery from that last round, she did it all over again, and he nearly died. That happened all over again, but he came back blind, and he was unconscious for so long that his arms were not working properly from that point forward. Now, he started to recover from that, although he never regained his sight, and it took a long time to get his arms working again. He ended up starting to be able to eat again down the line, closer to the March-April mark. And then she started poisoning his food again and was doing so regularly. And then it became daily all during April, where there was numerous rushes back to the hospital. And as I was reporting this to everybody possible, nobody was taking me seriously, because whatever substance she's using is not detectable. And I do understand how all of this works, because I hired a private lab 5 years ago and had a full-blown conversation with the scientists at the lab back then. And this lady understood that I fully was very educated on this subject, this matter. And it was due to my own carbon monoxide poisoning, mixed with my mother having Munchausen by proxy poisoning food all of my life. So I was already well aware that this substance is not detectable regularly in the random tests that they do within the hospital system. You would actually have to have the category of substance or the exact substance to get a hit as a result for the test. So I was already very well aware of this. So when I was trying to report this in April of 2024, nobody was getting, they're not getting the answers. It's just making me look crazy. Although I'm very well aware that she was doing this all along, because I've been dealing with this my whole life. I dealt with it his entire injury. And I also ingested it numerous times, twice during April of 2024. Once was intentional, once was accidental. And due to my own injuries and my brain tissue being open, the substance goes right through and loads up into my brain. So that's how I was able to tell. It's not questionable. I'm 110% on this. It's just we don't know the substance. It is tasteless, colorless, odorless. That's what I do know. Now, due to all that, that led to me needing to get these power of attorney documents signed with my dad as soon as possible. I knew exactly what my mother was doing, what she was trying to carry out. She did not expect my dad to live after the 1/8/24 incident. And 10 days after that, it turns out that she actually cashed out his 401k and moved it into trust for herself without ever assessing any of the finances as a whole. Just took the entire chunk of money, not expecting him to make it out of that incident. So there was a fight between the two of them a day or two prior to that. And she was very mad about the amount of money in his 401k. It was under $100,000, although he did not tell me the exact number. He just stated it was under $100,000, and she expected there to be hundreds of thousands of dollars in there. She did not know that he told me everything that happened regarding that matter and that fight that they had while he was in the hospital at Beaumont Wayne. He had been there for about a week at that point. He told me everything, and then that next day she did try to finish him off, and then 10 days after that is when she cashed out his 401k, moved it into trust for herself, and had no intention of assessing anything financially. So I did not come to learn this until I got these power of attorney documents for him signed in it was third week of April 2024. But I saw what she was trying to do, and I knew it was urgent, so that's why we got them signed when we did. And at no time was he able to sign them between the first week of August 2023 and that time in April. This was the best time possible out of all that time frame that he would have been able to sign them. So that's what prompted me to move forward and sign them. We had also had numerous conversations, at least 20 different times, about if he ever had a power of attorney signed or not. And his response was no. At no time was he ever aware he'd signed one. And I'd also watched him tell numerous different sets of hospital staff along the way when he was checking into different hospitals that he did not have any power of attorney in place. And so at the same time, I have Charmaine over here documenting all the ongoing crimes for all these years. She'd been documenting everything regarding that as well. And at no time did my dad ever state that there was ever a power of attorney in place. So that all plays a role in what I'm about to talk about. Now, so we'll start with the actual police report. With Detective Mike Ramsey as the detective in this case, and the person who took the report from my mother in person that day was Officer Kristen Tolax, badge number 30. Okay, so it states that this officer was dispatched to the department lobby in reference to a fraud complaint, and that this occurred at PNC Bank in Brownstown. And it had occurred from 5/2/24 to 5/3/24, and it was discovered by my mother on 5/3/24. This incident was reported to the Brownstown Police Department on 6/6/24, and that my dad had been staying at the Special Tree Spinal Care Facility from the time of his injury. He had never returned home, and it's been about 2.5 years. But this report is from 1 year ago, so because this is June 2025. So then it states, upon arrival in the police department lobby, this officer had spoken to my mother, who stated she needed to make a police report against her daughter, who had fraudulently withdrawn money from 2 bank accounts. And then she stated that my dad is unable to care for himself and is incoherent. She stated that she is the power of attorney for my dad and was able to produce legal paperwork documenting this, which was executed by both of my parents on 10/26/23 and 11/20/23. Now, mind you, my dad did make a pretty significant recovery toward the end of December, where he was able to talk, and he was eating and talking again, and he was getting more with it before that last incident. And at no time was he ever aware he had signed these papers on 10/26/23. And I'd spoken to him about it numerous times again, and then numerous times after all of that. So you can actually view the video on the 401k fight with my dad between my parents. I believe it's labeled 1724 401k fight. That plays a big role in this, so it would be helpful to watch that video that's already been up on my YouTube channel. So she states all this in this report and stated that on 4/22/24 that I went to see my dad at the facility and had forged my dad's signature to multiple documents. These documents included a last will and testament, a new power of attorney form, which granted me power of attorney over my dad, and stated that I forged these documents and held the pen in my dad's hand and moved the pen in his hand to sign the documents. And she stated that she knows this because that the documents were forged because the employees at the care facility told my mom that they had captured the entire incident on video surveillance, on their video surveillance system. And this video surveillance system does not have sound either. So she then states that on 5/3/24, she received a notification from PNC Bank that $600 had been debited from a joint account that she shares with my dad, and stated that neither her or my dad had authorized the transaction and reported it as fraudulent. And then a representative from the bank had then stated that I had produced to PNC the power of attorney documents, and then they had granted me access to the account after processing these documents. After discovering this information, my mother had frozen the account and then closed it and reported the $600 transaction as fraudulent. She then stated that she didn't have time to make the police report due to her husband's ailing health and the financial responsibilities associated with his care. So that's a complete lie right there, because she has been off doing lunch dates, going on bingo bus trips, going here and there, and did not even visit my dad regularly for many months after his injury. I was the one there every evening, almost every evening for the first 15 months. And she was not. She was only there a couple hours, 1 or 2 days a week initially. And then even when she does go, even to the current day, she only goes for a few hours a day. She has nothing else to do. So that is a complete lie that she's just so busy with his care. That's all a lie. And also the financial responsibilities associated with his care. There is no financial responsibilities associated with his care. This is a workers' comp injury, and they've covered 100% of everything the entire time. So at approximately 9:15 on 6/6/24, my mother states that she discovered the additional fraudulent activity on the other account that is only in my dad's name at Community Focused Credit Union in Brownstown. And she wanted to report both of these transactions as fraudulent, and that I've never been permitted to use or grant authorization to use either of these accounts. She further stated that I have a substance abuse problem, and although I have never stolen money from either of them in the past, she states that I have always been known to cause trouble. She also states that following the discovery of the forged signatures, that I'm now banned from visiting my dad or attempting to visit him at the care facility. After completing this interview, this officer had advised my mother to go to the Romulus Police Department and open another investigation and get a report for that. And then it states below that that they're trying to charge me with fraud, passing forged documents in the amount of $600 regarding the one account. And then below that, it states that I have not been interviewed regarding these allegations whatsoever, and that the investigation remains open. On 6/10/24, my mother came back to the Brownstown Police Department with copies of the PNC statement showing the $600 that was taken from the account. In addition to the requested statement, she asked for a copy of my power of attorney dated 4/22/24. And on 6/10/24, my mother then followed up. They then followed up with my mother to attempt to get additional information regarding the filing of the police report with Romulus. And an officer at Romulus Police had then advised her that they would take incident notes, but a report was not necessary. And this officer had then advised my mother to return to the Romulus Police to try to file another report regarding the fraud again. Now, this is Detective Mike Ramsey's account of all of this. at Brownstown, and it says, upon review of the case documents, it was found that my dad had been placed in an extended care facility at Specialty Spinal Care Facility in Romulus, Michigan, and he had been advised by my mother that her husband was not of sound mind. Due to this medical condition that her husband was suffering, her daughter then had tricked her father into signing a power of attorney. And then I proceeded to provide the power of attorney to PNC Bank, where I withdrew $600 from a joint account, and then provided it to the Community Focused Credit Union in Brownstown, where I then withdrew $2,600 out of my dad's account. And this account is used for medical expenses and reoccurring bill payments. Now, that is not true, because workers' comp covers all of my dad's medical expenses, and my mother wasn't even aware there was reoccurring loan payments out of that bank. Now I'll get more into that in a minute. At no time did, so this is Detective Mike Ramsey's account of everything. At no time did my mother give me permission to withdraw any funds out of any of the accounts belonging to either one of them. Reporting detective did receive the Romulus Police Department case report, which alleges that I tricked my dad into signing a power of attorney, which was notarized on the scene at the extended care facility. And Romulus police were deeming this case as a civil matter, and they wanted it to be taken to probate court. The reporting detective made contact with my mother, and she indicated that she was in fact the power of attorney for my dad, and that I was not the power of attorney. And then my mother also provided a video from the care facility showing me and the notary of public assisting my dad with these documents, which had then been notarized. And on 6/18/24, the reporting detective made contact with the notary, who I'm not going to state her name because she has done nothing wrong during any of this. She was the notary that I had brought in. I had to take the first available, and I did contact at least five notaries during all of this. There was probably more than five, but I placed numerous phone calls and tried to get whoever was closest to that facility for that day. So I will talk about that in a second. But then she states that she traveled to the facility to meet with all of us, where we had, it was all of my kids, and it was two witnesses and the notary and myself. And that I paid the notary $140 to notarize, it was per document. So there was X amount of documents. And then further conversation with the notary, she indicated that she did have to assist my dad with the initialing and signing of the will and power of attorney. However, he did appear to be of sound mind and body at the time that this was completed. And then reporting detective again made contact with my mother. And then she stated that the two banks were not going to reimburse the account for the losses suffered, and that she had closed the account, and the PNC Bank had provided her a check with the remaining funds. The reporting detective made contact with, I'm not going to say her name because they haven't done anything wrong either, but she made contact with somebody in the loss prevention department of the Community Focused Credit Union who was assisting in this case. And upon speaking with her, she indicated that the legal department had indicated Community Focus will also not be reimbursing any of these funds due to the fact that in their eyes I had power of attorney and these documents were accepted in good faith. So then my mother was then advised to contact probate court for an emergency hearing, and then go to probate court to see whose letters would be deemed legit. And the copy of these letters and these case files would be given to my mother to take to probate court. And after a review of all applicable documents, it appears that I had tricked my father into signing the power of attorney and will, using these documents fraudulently to obtain funds out of these banks belonging to my dad, and the joint fund belonging to both of them, and that they want to move forward. Both of my mother and the detective want to move forward with charges against me regarding this, and it will be forwarded to Prosecutor Robinette for review and possible fraudulent schemes charges. So that is Detective Mike Ramsey who stated all of that. Now, because there was 2 accounts and 2 sets of charges and case numbers, because they were on different days and times in different facilities, basically it is the same exact report written again on this one. And the other thing that happened here was, it says, after extensive research and investigation into the associated cases, the reporting detective deemed it was appropriate to send them to the local prosecutor, Dean Robinette, for review and advising on any possible applicable charges. Reporting detective did send this email to the prosecutor on 11/6/24, where he indicated he would review the case and reply back to the reporting detective. On 12/10/24, the reporting detective did receive an email of communication from the prosecutor, which then indicated that he had reviewed all the reports and paperwork, specifically the powers of attorney that were in question. He then determined at this time they must recommend that the department decline issuance of any criminal charges against me. After his thorough review, even though criminal charges should not be pursued, they told my mother to consider consulting with a private attorney for civil litigation. And a copy of this email will be maintained with its original case file for any future reference. And on 12/11/24, the reporting detective did make contact with my mother, advising the prosecutor's decision to not criminally charge me with fraudulent schemes, and then told again to pursue civil litigation to get reimbursed for any lost monies. And no criminal charges will be filed in this case, and the case is closed. So there's also a second report written regarding the Community Focus Credit Union. It was all the exact same wording as the first bank, but the only difference is my mother tried to get that bank that her name is not on the account, tried to get them to give her documents from them, and they refused to help her or work with her. That is the only thing that is different and added to this report that was not added to the PNC report. And the reason for this is that I had initially told that bank that there would be a problem with my mother, most likely at some point down the line, that she's known to commit very serious crimes against me. She uses the police department to do so, and that she has Munchausen by proxy while spreading a false narrative about me around town. She also poisons batches of food. And I told them everything regarding my mother in advance, prior to them ever even accepting my power of attorney. So apparently whoever I spoke to did take this matter very seriously. They did notate that, and then they did not work with my mother to help her gain any documents because they believed everything I said. And then everything I stated did happen. They obviously seen the police are here investigating false accusations and what had all happened, so they could see it with their own eyes that the type of person I said she is really happening. So they did not help her. So I guess I owe somebody from that bank an apology, because I was very mad. At one point, I really thought they jumped on their team and were helping, and they actually did not. Upon reading these documents, they actually did not. And what I was trying to do was get my dad's truck fixed that my daughter drives. After I was blocked from getting the remaining funds from the first bank where I took the $600, I was fixing my dad's truck that cost over $800 to fix. And then the place diagnosed it and figured out the problem, but didn't have time to fix it that day. So I only gave them a deposit, and I was supposed to bring it back that Monday, but that's where my mother had cut off the bank account, and then I couldn't get the remaining funds from their joint account. Actually, the truck is in my mother's name. So that's why I went to the joint account to get these funds. And the place still has the deposit to this day, and the truck is still not fixed to this day. So I went to the Community Focus Bank account to get the remaining funds, so at least the truck could get fixed. And that's where they had stopped the account as well. And that's when I got mad at them, because I thought they were participating in all of this, but they actually were not, and they actually just shut it all down and refused to help, and said they would not help without a court order. Now, it does state in this paper that approximately $2,000 were taken from that account, so I will get there in a second. So that's it for that, the reading of those reports regarding that matter. Now, the other thing here is my mother does not know how to maintain vehicles. She's never maintained a vehicle a day in her life. She does not have basic life skills or understand how to get through life streetwise. She's not a street-minded individual and understands how to get through life. And that's why I would be the better candidate for the power of attorney and maintaining everything financially, because I'm also 100% self-made, self-built, run everything myself. Even though I'm considered permanently disabled, I run everything up out of my home. I still manage to keep things running. I just have to move at my own pace. And then if I'm not okay on a day or two, then I pick back up when I am. So I'm the better candidate for all of this. I'm the one who's always maintained every vehicle. My mother has no clue how to even get an oil change properly, and nor does she even know how to use a screwdriver. So the reason for that is because that vehicle that my dad owned, that my daughter's driving, it was technically in my mother's name apparently. So my daughter's been driving it for the past 2 years since my dad's injury. And due to the narcissistic games that my mother plays and that my daughter plays, due to the manipulation of my mother long term, there's all types of problems that have been ongoing for years due to all of that. And there is proof of this with credible witnesses who can back all of this up. At no time would I ever be spending my own money to put repairs into a vehicle that I do not own, that the title is not in my name. There would be no reason for me to ever do that. I already own 2 vehicles separate from all of that I am responsible for. And that is what I keep myself responsible for. My own funds would never be going into a vehicle that they own. So that's why that money was taken from their joint account to fix the vehicle that they own, that she doesn't have the skills to even address fixing. So to this day, that place still has the deposit and the truck is still not fixed. This is a year later. So if they had actually done an investigation, they would have realized that at no time there's not even any stolen money. What it is she owns a vehicle and doesn't have the brains to actually fix it, and doesn't have the know-how whatsoever to go about doing this, which was why I took care of it, which was why the power of attorneys were signed to take care of one's estate and one's affairs. I used these documents properly. At no time did I ever use them improperly. So why would I be putting my own funds into somebody else's vehicle, and the person driving it and the person who owns it does nothing but play narcissistic games and screams delusions in my face and passes a false narrative about me around town? That makes no sense. I would never be putting $1 of my own money into somebody else's vehicle. So that $600, that's all provable. But again, they did no investigation, nor did they have any intent on looking into any of this. So if they had, they would have realized right away that the place still has the deposit and the truck still isn't fixed. It cost $860 some bucks to fix. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2, the money from the second bank, the $2,600 or so dollars, that my mother's name is not on that account. With that, I had then moved forward to get my dad an attorney to file for guardianship of him, because this was when, during April of 2024, I'm realizing she's poisoning him every day. He needs a guardian immediately. This is getting out of control. He keeps coming near death, getting rushed back to the hospital. And on some of the clearer days, I then went over it with him that, okay, this needs to happen now. This is what I'm going to do for you. We had talked about it. My dad and I had talked about it numerous times on numerous different days. And we had already been talking about this months prior to before that last incident. So I had let him know what I was doing, what I was planning on doing. I'm going to get you an attorney. It took me quite a bit of time to talk to different attorneys to get this all situated and who I was going to choose. And I then went to the Community Focused Credit Union, where I took 3 separate money orders out. And the attorney's name that I chose, his name is on these money orders. His name is John O. Knappman. And his name was on the 3 different money orders because I couldn't get them for more than $1,000 each. So there was 3 separate ones. And then I also got a fourth one from my personal bank account because it was more than $2,600. It was like $3,500. So I then went to my bank and I got the rest of the money out of my own account on a separate money order. So a total of 4 money orders were obtained to pay this attorney to file the guardianship case for my dad. And now at this point, my dad's life is in grave danger. My mother's been poisoning him regularly. He keeps getting rushed back to the hospital, and the people at the hospital and the care facility are doing nothing about this, and neither had the Romulus Police Department. Although they had received numerous reports from me over some time that this was going on. So that's why they were already aware there was something fishy about the situation in advance of all this happening. Now I did pay the attorney. I paid him back in May of 2024, and I then could not find his office. So some time had gone by, some weeks had gone by, and I could not find his office. He did not file the case. So I'm looking for the case, can't find the case. And then I tried to hunt him down in person, and in his office building, I rode up and down the elevator and checked every floor myself, went up to every door, and his name is still on the directory downstairs, but at no time could I find his office. And I even stopped in several other offices asking about this guy, where they said, oh yeah, he's here. He moved offices. He's on this other floor. It doesn't matter. I checked every floor. The guy's office was not in there. I don't know what happened. I could not find him. So now it had been over a month and the case was still not filed. He had had the money for some time. Nothing had happened. And I didn't know what to do. So I eventually reached out to the Attorney Grievance Commission, where I got the ball rolling on reporting all of this. In the end, the guy had to hire himself an attorney to get the situation situated. But by the time this all played out and got situated, way down the line, the court date had already taken place regarding the guardianship for my dad, and I had to go without an attorney. And my mother also did not have an attorney, but I needed the attorney due to the extreme circumstances that were going on. And I had to drop everything I was doing and address it myself and file the paperwork myself, which I then did. But it was quite extensive due to the amount of ongoing crimes over the course of all these years and the amount of danger my dad's life was in. And at the same time, I was also working on $100,000 in damage to my home. And at the root of that is my mother's ongoing crimes and all this harassment and her using large agencies to harass me and cause problems in my life, because the damage to the home should have never occurred. The home was just remodeled. I was forced away for about a year and a half, and it was due to the 2021 Ford gas spill in Flat Rock. And she had inserted herself in it, called to the city, called to the top of Ford, and convinced them that my son and I were never injured, acted as if I made the whole thing up and I have this mental disorder and this drug problem. But the reality is our brain tissue is wide open and our cells are overloaded with carbon monoxide. We had been treating an inpatient injury on an outpatient basis for years at that point. And we had just barely crossed that first threshold to even know if we were even going to live. And then we were completely overloaded with Ford's gas, where they did pay for our hotel for 2 months. But then due to my mother's criminal action, she inserted herself in that and got them to cut our hotel off, getting them to believe everything she had said about me, even though those were all delusions and lies. We were then forced home to live with our brains bleeding. It took me some months to come up with enough cash to purchase another home with cash an hour south of here, so I could at least still get to the money that I was making to continue keeping everything running at that time and continue to pay for treatment, because at this time we were still paying for treatment out of pocket. And during that 12 months and 12 months flat while I was gone, I put a tenant in the home. The home had just been remodeled. The home had future plans already set in advance. And they destroyed the entire home due to water damage and other extensive damage, over $100,000+ in damage in that 12 months flat. So at the root of why all that happened was my deranged mother and her ongoing crimes and inserting herself using large agencies to help her do all this to me. So I was in an extreme state of suffering, extreme state of brain bleeding, in and out of consciousness. My son was doing kindergarten from the main floor. We had to stay lowest to the floor where the air was clearer. The higher up you go, the higher and heavier the particles were. So we got on the main floor. We literally lived on the floor in this room behind me on the carpet for about 7, 8, 9 months until I got the other home purchased and got us to safety, until there was enough precipitation naturally to clear the remaining amounts of the gas particles in the area because they only cleaned it to EPA's level of all clear, which is technically not all clear. We literally had to have 100% clear. Not just that, but it was blanketing the entire area in a 30-mile radius a year later. And I still had to drive through it to get to treatment and to get down to work. And I couldn't drive through it. I was still in and out of consciousness from this. So there was a very serious issue. That's why we had to leave. That's why there was all this damage to my home. But at the root was all my mother's crimes. And so during the time that this probate case was taking place, where I was needing to do all of this paperwork, I was in the midst of taking care of the $100,000 plus in damage. I had to hire a public adjuster to get the money. It took numerous months to get the money. Initially, the tenant had thrown away 2 of the insurance checks, and due to my mother's crimes and her regularly calling the local police departments, getting them to help harass me, the Flat Rock Police Department refused to help me, refused to take a report, actually told me they're waiting to come back and falsely arrest me if that girl comes back to my house with my address still on her ID. They're going to wait for me to do all the work and finish it and then falsely arrest me again. So I could not report this is criminal negligence. The amount of damage that was done was criminal negligence. They left water running at this kitchen sink. They broke a dishwasher pipe, and her kids had toys shoved in the sump pump. So when it all crashed downstairs, it never drained. And the mold had taken over the entire home because she hid it for 2 months. So due to my mother's ongoing crimes, all of her delusional phone call placing, I could not get help from the police. I could not press charges on the woman who caused all of this damage. And then here I am being threatened to be falsely arrested some more by the Flat Rock Police Department while I'm dealing with all of this, while I'm chronically sick, permanently injured with limited functioning. This is all going on at one time. So here I was during the time this court case was supposed to be going on for my dad. Now I don't have an attorney. That's why I hired an attorney. I didn't have the capacity to fit that into my life, and then I was being forced to. So during this time, I had then gotten 2 of the significantly larger checks from the homeowner's insurance. I had numerous sets of people working for me during this time because everything was on a time limit, and we were over here trying to chip away at the bulk load of what needed to be addressed between June and August. June, August, September is when the majority of the work was done. And at that time was when I was working on the documents for the probate court for my dad's case. And I had to literally stop what I was doing and address these probate court documents. So I actually followed proper court procedure and I filed everything properly. I notified everybody properly. My mother did not. And I have the proof. That video is also already up on the probate court plays out illegally. You can see everything I talk about in that video, that it's provable that what they did was illegal. So what my mother did was she took these false police reports right here, and she took them to the probate court. She used Adult Protective Services Megan Kinder and the guardian ad litem Mohammed Bazi, and she got them to operate on her behalf on these false police reports, stating that I stole all of this money. That's why she needs guardianship. And then on the line below that, on the court forms, it states any children or parents of the individual needing the guardian, they have to be notified legally. She stated that they had no children, and the judge even believed them to have had no children, even though I am their only child. She still did not put any of that in there, or because those people have to be sent the documents as well in advance of the court date. She did not do that. And a couple lines above it, it states that the daughter stole all this money, even though they're trying to say they didn't know I existed when it says it a couple lines above on the same page. So at no time did I ever receive any court documents regarding this case. They attempted to have this court date behind my back, and she got all of these individuals to operate on her behalf fraudulently as well. I then emailed the guardian ad litem, which I talk about this in the other video with the probate court case. And I emailed him stating what the problems are, how long this had been going on, that I need to meet with him in person. I have the proof of everything that has happened, but I need to meet with him in person. It would be easiest to do it that way, to explain everything and show him the different sets of proof. He then responded back stating, yeah, he's going to do that. He never did that. I then sent a follow-up email not long before the court date. The first court date they did try to have behind my back. I showed up magically. They thought they were going to get away with it behind my back. the judge then adjourned it for a month. I came back. That's when they were ordered to do an investigation and sit down with the four of us, with the guardian ad litem, adult protective services, me, and my mother. And that's where the guardian ad litem, Mohammed Bazi, did not have the investigation or the meeting. And that's when I realized he was not going to do this, and it was approaching the court date again. That's when I sent the email to back up, proving that he did not do that. And I also sent an email stating that I allow Charmaine to speak with anybody regarding all the ongoing crimes, and that he needs to reach out to her, and it would be unjust to move forward without speaking with her. She's been a part of this for a very long time. That's why she's involved. And he never reached out to her. He never had the investigation, never had the meeting. And then that's why I sent the email to back up and prove that he had never done that. Then we show up in court a few days later, and he tells the judge that he did the investigation. He did all of this, even though I can prove he did not. So they all operated on these false police reports from Brownstown and did not investigate, further put my dad's life in danger, all lied on my mother's behalf, believing all of the delusions in the false narrative, and then granted my mother custody, all on lies and delusions. So if you watch that other video, it's very clear in that video what actually happened. But at the time this was going on, it took me many weeks of having to address this paperwork. There was so much there that I had to do all of this myself. And I did mail it out, and it put my dad's life in further danger by mailing out this paperwork and what I had written, because when my mother knows that I'm trying to tell on her, her reaction is to poison my dad's food again. That's how she operates. That's what she does. It's always been that way. Now, during this time, I had about 6 times more on my plate than I could handle. Here I was picking up the pieces to the 100 grand in damage to my home while dealing with all these other situations at the same time that were also running in the background, all the other fallout from all the other ongoing crimes and my ongoing injury and the effects I suffer from. This was all going on at one time. And at the same time, here they are trying to say that I'm just this broke loser, stole $600 from one account, $2,600 from another, when I'm sitting on tens and tens of thousands of dollars. Like, I think it was like a total of $70-some thousand in checks. Why would I be stealing measly money when that's the type of money I'm actually dealing with in that moment? Why would I be stealing some bullshit amounts of money? That doesn't add up either. On top of that, the amount of money I've made over the course of my life in the industries that I've worked in and made my money in, the majority of pretty much my whole life, between the different industries that I've been in, because I've been in the restaurant and bar industry and entertainment industry for well over 20 years. Those are very high paying industries. None of that adds up to who I am as a person. And outside of this homeowner's claim, which here I'm sitting on like 70 grand, that makes no sense. So if there was actually an investigation done, any idiot would have been able to figure out that everything that was fed to them were all delusions and lies. So in the end, that $2,600 was actually stolen by the attorney who had never filed the case and had no intention of doing so. I later figured out he had done this to numerous other people in the past. But that's what happened to the money, and no one even tried to contact me or reach out or even try to get the copies of the money orders from me or the bank with the person whose name's on them and who cashed them. So it's all provable where all of this money was. $600 to the car repair place, who I didn't receive enough money to fix it. So they still have the deposit. The truck is still not fixed. And then the $2,600 from the attorney that my dad needed because his life is in danger in my mother's care. And that's where the money went. At no time was there malicious intent. At no time did I steal anything. At no time did I gain anything. I have my entire life separate. Power of attorneys are to be used to take care of one's estate and one's assets. That's exactly what was being done with this money. If any idiot had investigated, you would have realized that. So it doesn't add up. The entire thing does not add up whatsoever. So now, the other thing, I did state that my mother had cashed out my dad's 401k about 10 days after she tried to finish him off at the beginning of 2024. And I figured this out within 24 hours of having my legit power of attorney. I was able to figure that out. I contacted the 401k companies where they then confirmed that she never submitted any power of attorney documents, but it was cashed out. And because she also had a false quitclaim deed signed, I was able to locate those records and figure out the notary / attorney who had helped her. And I made contact with that woman as well, Jamie Fergus of Shea Law. So that was the person who had helped my mother move all of this stuff into trust. And at no time did my mother ever assess anything financially regarding my dad's matters. All she did was take the entire chunk of money, move it into trust for herself. And here there was 2 outstanding loans, more than $10,000 worth out of that bank account that her name was not on. That's what those monthly payments were being made. But if you cash out somebody's 401k, you would take that money and pay off the debt, not move it all into trust for yourself. So all the proof is there of what's actually gone on. And then once I got my real power of attorney signed, it allowed me to figure out that this Jamie Fergus chick and Shea Law they had helped her move the house into trust for herself. And it had the dates, and Adult Protective Services also confirmed the date where my mother had this supposed power of attorney signed. And this power of attorney, my dad was never aware that he signed. He wasn't in a place to be signing it. So I can prove that. I'm going to prove it right now because I've filed a Romulus police report on October 21st, 2023. And it states in that police report that I'd been carrying around power of attorney documents for some months. However, my dad was not well enough to sign them yet. It says it right there in that report. And then my mother's fraudulent power of attorney documents were signed on 10/26/23, 5 days later. And then I also have a video. I have several videos and several pictures of my dad's actual state of being on the day that she had these documents signed. And she was not aware that I had all of this. And I have video of his state of being. So I have the police report a few days before she signed it. And then I've got the video proving his actual state of being, right on that day and the day after her documents were signed. So I'm going to show you right now my dad's physical state. You're going to tell me that he was coherent enough to sign her fraudulent power of attorney documents? I'm going to show you right now that he was not. This is what he was looking like. This was the day of or the day after her documents were signed. And again, I have numerous videos and numerous pictures.
What are you doing? You want respiratory? Can you breathe like that? You want me to move the bed down? Is moving the bed changing it? I already pressed the button. I got respiratory going.
Okay, so right there, he's not responding to anything I'm saying. You can see at some parts of that, he's not even breathing, that he seems to be slipping in and out of it. You can very clearly see that he is in no state to be signing any documents. That is the day that my mother had her fraudulent documents signed. That's why my dad's completely unaware he ever signed anything at all. So proof right there. Her documents are fraudulent. Not one person, not one agency, not one individual. So you have the guardian ad litem, Adult Protective Services. Romulus Police Department did not look into this either. Although they seem to not be involving themselves criminally against me, they also did not look into any of this. And then you have Brownstown Police Department. So all of these people and agencies are responsible for my mother being able to commit fraud, get away with it, and then try to flip the script on me as if I'm the one who committed fraud, when I can fully prove that she's the one who committed fraud. And she knew that by me getting those real documents signed, that I was going to uncover everything that she did, which is exactly what I used them for. At no time did I ever use them maliciously. So again, and the money stolen, there's no stolen money. These people, it was given to the attorney to file the case, and it was given to fix the vehicle that they owned. So there's numerous problems here, and this went on for some months, where no one's even investigating or attempting to reach out to me because they believe I'm this mental disorder, drug addict, hot mess, chasing men in different states, running around town, a broke loser with no income. That's what they believe. That's why they had no intention of reaching out to me. So there's numerous problems here because that went on for some months. It looks like December is when that ended. This began in June. Not only that, but I reached out to Detective Ramsey myself in August of 2024, and he wasn't listening to anything I was saying. I'm telling him I can prove everything, and he was talking around me, going right over what I was saying, demanding to know where the stolen money was, and he's not listening to anything that I'm saying. Nor did he ever mention in these reports, like I told him on the phone, that the attorney stole the money, not wanting to believe anything that I'm saying. So in all the other crimes I reported over the phone that my mother had been involved in committing, he did not listen to any of those. These have all already played out. And then his response was, oh, we'll just have to wait and see. Wait and see what? These crimes have already happened. They've already played out. The witnesses already exist. The fallout is still ongoing. It's not wait and see. They've already happened. So here he was promising my mother false fraud charges on me as long as she got custody in probate court, which is why he continued to write these false police reports right here and then allow her to take them to the probate court so he could then pin false fraud charges on me with no investigation. Still not listening to anything I'm saying, believing this whole false narrative about who I am as a person. So that's what he had done. And then what I'm going to talk about here is, the process of using the notary. Like I said, I had contacted numerous notaries and I let them know the state of my dad's being, how his eyes don't work, how he can't see anything, and how his arms were left not stretched so he can barely use his arms. But he is with it from day to day. He seems to know what he's doing day to day in the moment. He's with it. He just has a really bad short-term memory. So all of those notary services that I contacted had the same answer. They said that that's totally fine. He also does not need his ID present. This happens all the time. And that we are allowed to assist him in signing should there be a problem due to his condition. I am allowed to move the paper, and because he can't see, he's not going to be able to see what he's writing on. So yes, I did have to move the paper, and what it was is he opted to sign his full name when he could have signed by Mark instead. But because he started that way, we had to finish that way, which is why he needed help holding the pen. In the end, we did have to help him a little further in the end to finish, because of the way he opted to sign the full name, which he didn't even have to do that. So at no time was my dad ever tricked. They keep using negative connotations about me. Oh, I tricked him. No, she tricked him. At no time was he ever aware that he signed those documents with her on 10/26/23. And then they were using the words that I'd snuck in a notary and I'd snuck in weed brownies and I did all these things. They're using all of these negative connotations. None of that's real. These are delusions and crimes and a false narrative about me. I didn't sneak anything. I didn't sneak a notary in my back pocket. We all walked in as a whole, took care of business. That's it. Now, if you know anything about the real me, you would know I wouldn't be paying a notary $140 to come there and play some delusional game either. So there's numerous problems when it comes to all of this. And then the substance abuse problem, that is not real. That has never been real. Matter of fact, there was somebody who worked with me 20 years ago who I've not heard from in 20 years who actually reached out to me via Facebook asking me if I'm clean. So now it's alerted me that these people have actually involved, I've known they involved other people to insert themselves in my life all along the way, but then that alerted me further that he was actually one of those people 20 years ago based on the wording he had messaged me. Because at no time have I ever been on anything. The only thing I've been high on is chasing the bag and building success from the ground up and getting to my money at a very rapid rate prior to my injury and still building success since my injury. So that was another issue. That was a more recent incident where someone told on themselves along the way. I will get to the other people in different videos. Known to cause trouble. My mother's always been known to cause trouble. Those are facts. It's been known all along. There's numerous people who can verify this, and she's the one who causes all the problems in my life from the background using other people and agencies. So she is the troublemaker, which is what I warned every person and agency in advance of. But apparently they're all just so ignorant that they can't even comprehend that they're being manipulated by a deranged lunatic, and they just believe everything the deranged lunatic says just by saying she's my mother. Even though there's been no contact, there's been no relationship for decades, they just believe a deranged lunatic. So yes, I will get to some of those other individuals here very soon in the future videos. And at the root, yes, I've been banned from my dad for over a year now. And the reason for me being banned are the supposed forged signatures. At no time were these signatures forged. Her documents were forged. He was totally unaware he ever signed them. And she should be the one that should be banned because she also got her documents signed at Special Tree. And she's the one who committed fraud, not me. So this is all fraudulent. Everything that's gone on and how they've portrayed me and what has all gone on, that's all fraudulent at her doing. Now, and no one has ever actually showed me her bullshit power of attorney, which it is bullshit, it is fraudulent, but numerous people had verified the dates and it is verified in this police report. So that's how I know when exactly it was signed, because it's been told to me by numerous people. And here, I just showed you the proof that he's not able to sign it. And when I had him sign, he was much more coherent, even though she's saying in these reports he's incoherent. But you have a notary who doesn't even know him and had an hour-long conversation with him where she's saying, no, he's with it. He knows what he's doing in the moment. That he is of sound mind in that moment. And you can tell very clearly in the video I showed you that he is not of sound mind and had no clue he had signed those documents in October of 23. Now, yeah, you do need to view the other videos that I'm talking about regarding the Brownstown, Michigan Police Department and how probate court played out illegally. It makes more sense if you view those videos as well. All of these people need to be charged with the crimes they've committed against me. These are all false reports, a whole false fraud investigation, all on lies and delusions, and every step of the way can be proven. And again, my lifestyle speaks for itself. Everything I've been working on, everything I've been building from the time I was a teenager, even though my deranged mother's in the background using people and agencies to continuously wipe me out and create all this chaos and destruction, here I am still building and building and building, still managed to barely hold on to the house that I still live in. And that's what she's very jealous of. She can't stand the fact that I own a home bigger than hers, that I'm 100% self-made and self-built. And after she tried to kill me, myself, and my son numerous times throughout all of this, because that was her intent, to make sure I did not live through that medical emergency. She is extremely jealous that I still have what I have left and wants to portray to others that other people pay my bills here in this house when I haven't gotten a dollar from anybody, and nobody has ever paid my bills ever. So she's been telling people my ex has paid my bills or my dad has paid my bills or both. None of that's real. That's also what she tells my local police department, Flat Rock, and none of that's real. I've also been falsely arrested and dragged from my home and arrested on false crimes that my ex committed, not me, and he was not even living here. He was no longer living here, nor did he pay any bills or child support or anything. Nothing was his. She managed to do that with her delusional phone calls. She did that because she's jealous of what I have and what I've built. And she can't have her false narrative be true. So now, yeah, so then it talks in these reports about suing me when she's actually been committing fraud against me for decades. I will get to that in a future video. That is the plot twist in the end. I am going to talk about all of this. But suing me, I haven't gained anything and I haven't stolen anything. And this money went directly to a company to fix the vehicle that she owns because she doesn't have the life skills to do that. And went to the attorney. So at no time have I ever profited or gained anything or had malicious intent. I used my documents properly, whereas we can all prove every step of the way she did not. Sue me for what? For taking care of your matters that you don't know how to take care of. And because I happened to pick an attorney who stole the money, well, the reality is my life speaks for itself. So here I'm going to do a little walk around and I'm going to show you how my life speaks for itself. Now, I mentioned I went through 165 grand in out-of-pocket hyperbaric treatment. This is the stack of just my treatments, my receipts. These are my receipts. There are many treatments per page. Under daily treatment for 3 years and treated for a total of 6 years, all out of my own pocket. My private insurance also spent almost another 200 grand. This is just mine without the insurance. This is what has come out of my own pocket. Right there, you see $104,455. You see another $10,723, and you see another $28,837. Add this all up. And then these are the treatments for my son, all 100% out of pocket. No insurance because it was a large-scale cover-up with what happened to us, especially during labor and delivery and me giving birth while suffering from it. This is another $25,000 in treatments for my son. Add all of that up. I paid that all out of my own pocket in a 6-year period while fighting for my life, while severely injured, without assistance or help from anybody. And I'm the one who paid for everything myself, while being extremely sick and being harassed by all these individuals and agencies that my mother was using. Now I'm going to show you more of the jealousy and envy. This is my backyard view. Those are the houses behind me. And this is exactly what she's jealous of, because I am further ahead in life than her. And I have been since the time I was 16 years old. I was making more money than her. And now I'm going to walk you out front and show you what a mental disorder drug addict I am. And if that were truly the case, this is not where I would be in life. So this is the front of my house. Now right then and there, this is not the lifestyle of a mental disordered drug addict running around chasing men in different states, running off doing God knows what, scamming people for nothing, scamming people for this and that. Whatever the hell she's told people, I just proved it to you what the problem is. The problem is jealousy and envy. This is my third home that I've owned. I've owned this home for 8 years, bought another one with cash after this. That's what the problem is. Extreme jealousy and envy. This is criminal harassment by all these different agencies and individuals, and my mother's at the root of all of it. So the proof is in the pudding, as I did another video on that. You can view that separately. My life speaks for itself. Now I will be back with more. Thanks, bye.